Welcome to the sweetest place on earth, Hersheypark in Hershey, Pennsylvania. This park was created in 1907 by Milton Hershey, sort of the Disney of chocolate, and has grown tremendously over the years. It has a really beautiful entrance, as you're going to see. Directly behind us, if we turn around a little bit, over here you can see the famous little lighthouse that Milton Hershey built, and there is a separate building that's the Hershey Chocolate Museum that has a lot of displays about the history of chocolate and a fun little ride through the history of making chocolate. But here's the sort of entrance. It's almost like Busch Gardens. There's a sort of entryway before you get to the actual entrance of the park. There are little gift shops and concessions along the way here. The whole park is really shady, which helps because it does get very hot at this park in the summer. There's a ubiquitous Dunkin' Donuts there and souvenir booth. Needless to say, you won't have any problem finding chocolate in this park. It's everywhere. And the park does have a lot of popular music playing, which is why you will often hear this sort of backwards music so it doesn't get pulled down by YouTube. There's the actual entrance gates to the park. There's a security check-in. So to avoid the security check-in, we're just going to dissolve right inside the gates. And here we are. You can see in front of us there, Sky Rush going by, one of the big coasters, 200-foot coaster. And again, lots of little gift shops along this street. Over here is a little dedication to Milton Hershey. There are actually a few dedications to Milton Hershey throughout the park. Over on the right is a really beautiful path that goes along the river that's alongside there, and it also goes alongside Sky Rush and the Comet. But we're going to not take that route. We're going to go up here, which has a little more stuff. There are a lot of hills in this park, so be prepared to walk. There also really aren't a lot of ways to get around with transportation in the park. They have a train, they have a monorail, but they all start and stop at the same point. Over here on the left is Kosher Mart, which has really good vegetarian offerings, including falafels and kettle corn. This area that we're in right now is known as Founder's Way. There are basically a group of themed areas, and they aren't really heavily themed, but they give you a sort of sense of where you are in the park. Notice the fountain in front of us. That is a statue of Milton Hershey. Some eateries, a Famiglia pizza. You can also get some smoothies there. There's the dedication to Milton Hershey. Height measurement station for the kids. And in front of us now, in an area known as Carousel Circle, is the park's 1944 Philadelphia Toboggan Carousel. And it's a beauty. And it does have a working band organ, which is nice. Let's just take a little trip around the carousel here. What you'll find in the park is there are a lot of little winding paths all over the place. There's no real right way to get to any section of the park. I'm going to follow a pretty straightforward path in a counterclockwise direction, but there are all sorts of winding paths that interconnect all the way through the park. There in front of us is the Comet, the White Track, and Sky Rush going by us now. As you can see, this section is also home to a lot of nice little kiddie rides for small fry. And here are some more eateries and concessions throughout the park in the Founders Way section. The big one over there is the Founders Kitchen, the yellow building on the left, and they serve all sorts of food, including black bean veggie burgers. There's a Subway over on the right. More and more parks are concessioning out their food to, big corporations like Famiglia or Subway. Not my particular favorite thing to do because you can find those food concessions anywhere, but at least the public, I guess, is familiar with them. There's the Fotorium for taking old-style photos. Lemon Drop has fresh squeezed lemonade. And notice these big signs here in front of us that directs you to the various areas of the park. It's a huge park, very spread out, split by the river. We could go left, and that would take us off to the far end of the park where Lightning Racer is, but I'm going to go here toward what's called the Hollow, and that's going to take us on our counterclockwise swing. Over on the left there is the Sky Ride, which takes you on a nice, quiet, peaceful tour of the Midway. On the right here is the station for the Comet, the park's 1946 wooden coaster. The park actually has 3 wooden coasters. This is the oldest, made by the great Herb Schmeck from Philadelphia Toboggan. In front of us going by there is Great Bear, an intense B&M looping ride that has a really interesting layout. And some games and a couple other flat rides over there. We're going to take a right over here. There's the actual entrance to the Comet. And in the distance there you can see the station for Sky Rush. Sky Rush is really intense, very fast, a very fun ride, but it's intense. Very steep hill, very fast ride, and a very tight layout. There's the Wave Swinger. This gives you an idea of how steep and fast Sky Rush is. And there's yet another Famiglia pizza over on the left. Also ice cream cones and slushies. And there's the turnaround of the Comet, which jumps across the river. And there's the entrance to Sky Rush. Now, if you were to follow that path to the left of it, that would take you around by the river that I was talking about, where they have the nice scenic path near the entrance. There's a Super Duper Looper, one of the first big looping steel coasters installed at a park. It was designed by the renowned German coaster engineer Anton Schwarzkopf. Now we're going to head out of the hollow section, and we're going to walk up a steep hill to get to Kissing Tower Hill. Kissing Tower is that big observation ride that you see in the distance. The cars on it have windows shaped like, of course, Hershey Kisses. There goes the Super Duper Looper. As you can see, the park has lots of beautiful landscaping. As I mentioned, there are a lot of hills in this park, so it's a good idea to get in shape before coming. The green track that you see up there is the Flume Ride, Coal Cracker. Coal Cracker is one of the last remaining hydrophone rides that Arrow built. What that means is when the boat gets to the bottom of the trough, the boats are not like logs, they're like canoes, and they actually skim. They bounce over a little hill and they skim across the water at the end. It's a lot of fun. And that's the station for Coal Cracker. It's a circular loading platform. The boats continuously move like some of the river raft rides. And over on the left is the park's big amphitheater, where they have fun family shows that go on there. In front of us, that huge building, is the Overlook Food Court, which has a lot of delicious selections. You can see Tower Fries in front of us. There's the Coal Cracker entrance. And that's the exit for the Great Bear. Over there is the park's big arcade, and they actually have 3 pinball machines in there, which was good to see. The Gourmet Grill on the left has really good food, all sorts, really good tacos there. There's the entrance to the Great Bear, one of the most popular rides in the park. Now over here is a ride that used to be known simply as the Twin Turnpikes, and now it's basically 2 separate little rides. They give you Sunoco Speedway, which has little race cars, or the classic cars, which are to the left. And there are 2 separate antique car rides, basically, one with small race cars and one with the big antique cars. There's the Kissing Tower. There are also all these little signs placed along the Midway telling you different things about the rides and how long they've been there. And in front of us now, you can see the Flying Falcon, which is sort of a more thrilling version of the Kissing Tower. And also the track of the monorail is above us. There's guest services. And that red track in the distance is Storm Runner, which is another thrilling steel coaster that the park has. And just so you're not deceived, I just want to show you, it looks like this path goes around and keeps going, but it comes to a dead end down there. It's not technically a dead end because there are stairs that take you around, but this path is more of a maintenance path, and it goes out to a road that cuts right by the side of the park. So let's go back up this way, and we're going to head on for the Pioneer Frontier section of the park. Over on the right here is the entrance to Zoo America, which is a zoo that's included with your park admission. and is pretty vast. It's a big place with a lot of interesting animals, including an adorable prairie dog exhibit. If you're going to be staying in the park for a few days, there are a lot of options. There are hotels all over the place. There's also the Hershey Hotel, which is a pretty fancy place, very beautiful. And they also have a Hershey campground nearby that gives you a free shuttle into the park. And we've stayed there a few times, and it's very nice. And there's the monorail going by in the distance. And over on the left is the Aqua Theater, which is a very popular attraction at the park. And they have sea lions, sometimes dolphins. Just really an interesting little aquatic show that they put on. We're now in the Pioneer Frontier section, which is essentially all themed like an old western town. Here comes Storm Runner. Trailblazer Catering is a huge picnic pavilion. There are a lot of those around the park. And it's, of course, tied to this ride right here, the Trailblazer, which is the park's mine train. And where it says Stables over there, that's the Dietz and Watson Country Grill, which serves all sorts of barbecue offerings. As you can see, I'm not kidding. There's an awful lot of climbing that you do in this park. And we'll pause over here to watch the Trailblazer go by. And if you have long legs, just know that the Trailblazer is a little bit of a tight fit. Above us is the launch track for Storm Runner. It's a magnetic launch, it blasts you out of the station. And the chocolate-colored track beyond that is Sidewinder, the park's boomerang roller coaster. And we're right on time to watch this go through its paces. And there's Storm Runner's station. And up here on the hill are some more eateries. There's a Chicky and Pete's, and a little further down is a Moe's. And they all have Typical good old American food. And as you can see, there's a big patio area here with lots of tables and umbrellas. There's Storm Runner. And that's the Sidewinder entrance right there. And you might have noticed there are a lot of bridges in the park, whether it's going over creeks or rivers or whether it's going over train tracks. The yellow coaster you see flying by out there is Fahrenheit, and that signals we're entering the area of the park known as the Boardwalk, which centers around Hershey's huge water park area they have. There's the station for Fahrenheit. It's a little like Storm Runner, very intense, very quick ride. On the other side of that fence is the water park, which was not open when I was there that day. And here is the formal entrance to the water park, where it says Boardwalk. There actually are a couple of different ways to get there. This is the main entrance, but there are a couple of other back entrances that you can get to it from. And that big splash you just saw was from tidal force, which we'll see in a minute. And there's the station for tidal force, which puts out one heck of a splash. As you can tell by looking at the ground, anyone who stands in this general area is going to get pretty wet. Now we're leaving the Boardwalk area and entering a section of the park known as Midway America, which is basically themed to look like an old country fair. There are quite a few coasters in this section, including my favorite ride in the park. The station that's in front of us and the track that's on our left is for the Wildcat, which was the ride that basically started a new type of renaissance in wood coasters. It was made by Great Coasters International, which made another ride in the park that we're going to see in a minute, and brought back a style of roller coaster design that the country really hadn't seen since the 1920s, with huge sweeping turns and heavily banked tracks. It's a fun ride. And there's the Wildcat entrance. And over on the right, sort of appropriate contrast, is the station for the Wild Mouse. Now over here on the left, this massive building is Laugh Track, which is an indoor spinning roller coaster that's themed sort of like an old-style 1920s funhouse. It's very colorful inside and a lot of fun. It spins pretty violently, so just be aware of that, but it's an enjoyable ride. There's the park's giant Ferris wheel, which looks spectacular at night. There's old-fashioned fun with a whip over on the left and the Music Express. And the track that you see in front of us is the lift hill for my favorite ride in the park, Lightning Racer. This is the ride that was built by Great Coasters International, the same ones that built the Wildcat. And it's a huge ride. You race on thunder or lightning, and usually thunder wins. But it's a lot of fun. You can race against each other, and they actually will tell you who won when you get back to the station. When it opened, the ride was known as the first dueling racing coaster. And what that meant is that there are sections of the track where the trains are coming at each other in opposite directions and basically blow right by each other. It's a really fun and thrilling part of the ride. There's the finish line for Lightning Racer, and you can see the rest of the coaster spread way out there. And in front of you right there is the Shoreline Spray Ground, a massive water play area. And that was open when I was there. Now from here, we basically have to double back the way we came. So rather than walk you all the way through what you've already seen, I'm just going to go a little ways here and then dissolve over to Tidal Force and then walk you back from there on the other route we didn't take when we first started this video.
Hey, will you do me a big favor and weird this out?
Yes, you will get wet on that ride. So let's follow this path back up, but instead of bearing to the left, we're going to bear to the right, and that'll take us back up to the Founder's Way. Hersheypark does have a lot of picnic pavilions, but they're basically isolated and hid back. Like there are some off to our right that you can't see. And when we were around Pioneer Frontier, there were a lot of picnic areas that were way back behind where Trailblazer is. So they offer lots of catering and lots of chances to have outings here. And they give you quite a bit of privacy when you do that. I think I can hear some music. Hershey has a lot of really good musical acts that wander the Midway all day long. Percussionists, singers, and the band that you're about to see. Notice when we get up here, to the left of the Howler is the path that we took coming in here a short time ago, the one over the bridge. All right, so there goes Fahrenheit. Up in front of us is another big arcade, the Playdome. And there goes the Dry Gulch Railroad, an old steam engine that's heading back to the station. There's a bridge down toward the Pioneer Frontier area. And there's something you don't want to ride just after you've eaten. There's the station for the Dry Gulch Railroad over there on the left. And lots more concessions all over the place. That huge arched building on the right that you can see in the distance is the Hersheypark Arena, which holds events all year round. That's not to be confused with the nearby Hershey Stadium, which is where, when I was there, they were going to have Paul McCartney playing, and a lot of huge acts play there. It's a massive venue. For a smaller venue, over here up on the left is the Music Box Theater, which is the park's smaller performance space. They also have a stage right here. Take the stage, where they have stuff going on there as well. So there's plenty of entertainment all over the park. And over here on the right is the entrance to the Capital Blue Cross monorail, which is a pretty long ride. It not only goes all over the park, it also goes outside of the park and around by the Hershey corporate headquarters and then back into the park. And you pretty much get to see everything, including Zoo America and all the different areas of the park. It's a really nice ride. Here are more of the kiddie rides that I mentioned earlier. Now this building over here that looks like a tiny arena, that's actually the Reese's Extreme Cup Challenge, which is an interactive dark ride where you're split into different groups, chocolate and peanut butter, and then you've got to sort of fight your way out of there, and everybody gets a chocolate bar when you leave. So it's a good little treat, a nice way to escape the heat. And here we are, back on Founder's Way. This guy over on the right pretends to be a mannequin, and he's pretty convincing, and then will suddenly spring to life. The Dutch Candy Kitchen, of course, has lots of Hershey candy. Now we'll swing around to the right here because we missed this stuff when we came into the park and we swung around to the right of the carousel. The carousel is way off to our left there. So there are some more rides sort of tucked away back in this corner. Hersheypark Kids has lots of toys and gifts that kids will like, obviously. And with that, we've pretty much come to the end of our tour. As you can see, Hershey is a really, really large park with a lot of stuff to do. You could easily spend 2 days here, and you wouldn't see everything necessarily. And it's a good idea because of the amount of walking involved. Take your time, unless you feel particularly athletic. Pennsylvania was once the state with the largest number of amusement parks in the United States. The numbers have decreased since the golden era in the 1930s. But there are still quite a few parks in Pennsylvania. And right around Hershey, and not too far a drive, there are about 5 other parks. So if you're in the central Pennsylvania area, there's certainly plenty to do. It's also Amish country with gorgeous countryside and lots of Amish crafts. But I've just given you a sample of the largest park in the area, Hersheypark in Hershey, Pennsylvania.